In TypeScript, a function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. It's similar to a JavaScript function, but with the added benefit of static typing. Hello and welcome back to our TypeScript series. In this video, we are diving deeper into TypeScript functions. If you are new to JavaScript functions, please review that topic first. It's essential for understanding TypeScript. For your convenience, I have linked a JavaScript functions video in the description below. Now let's dive into TypeScript functions and we will cover the key concepts and features. So let's start with function definition. A function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. It takes optional input and can optionally return a value. So TypeScript functions are the building blocks of readable, maintainable and reusable code. In TypeScript function, there are the concept of function type. A function type has two parts, parameters and return type. When declaring a function type, you need to specify both parts. Like in this example, you can see x and y are the parameter of function with the type number and the type of the return value is number. And that follows the fat arrow appeared between parameters and return type. So the syntax is function followed by function name and followed by parenthesis, and inside parenthesis now we can pass the parameter along with data type, and then we can provide the return type of that function and then function body. Next, we will see the function parameter modifiers. In TypeScript, there are many parameter modifiers to modify the behavior of function parameters. But in this video, we are going to see these three function parameter modifiers. So the first parameter is rest parameter. It allows a function to accept an indefinite number of arguments as an array. And it's denoted by 3 dot followed by the parameter name. Like here, you can see we can pass parameter as a rest parameter. So that while calling the same function, we can pass as many arguments as we want. Next parameter is default parameter. It assigns a default value to the parameter if it's not provided. It means a function parameter that is assigned a default value if no value or undefined is passed to it when the function is called. And it's denoted by equal to. Here in this example, you can see we can pass the value hello to this name parameter. Name of type string equals to hello. Now let's understand the third parameter, optional parameter. It indicates that the parameter is an optional and can be omitted. It means a function parameter that doesn't have to be provided when calling the function. You can mark a parameter as an optional by adding a question mark after its name in the function definition. Like here, you can see name is a parameter and we can make this parameter as an optional by adding the question mark after the parameter name. Next, we will see the concept of function overloading. Function overloading allows us to define multiple functions for a single function and provide one implementation that handles all defined signatures. And here you can see the examples, function, function name, and here we are passing two parameters, x and y, along with the data type number, and this function will return a value of type number. So this is a return type and this is a parameter type. And the second example is also for the add function, but here we are passing parameter x and y with different data type like string, and this function will return the value of type string, and this is called as overloaded signature. So this overloaded signature enables us to provide different implementations of a function based on the arguments passed in. So the function overloading allows us to define multiple function signatures with the same name but different parameter types. So this is all about the theory of TypeScript function. Now let's jump into the Visual Studio Code and we will continue from there. But before we start practical, kindly subscribe to FAD Learning for more useful content. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you. So here inside Visual Studio Code, I'll create new file with name functions.ts. So how to write a function in TypeScript? To begin, just as in JavaScript, TypeScript functions can be created both as a named function or as an anonymous function. So to quickly recap what these two approaches looks like in JavaScript. Now let's write the code for adding two numbers. First I'll write the example of named function and then we will convert it to an anonymous function. Okay, the function followed by function name add, and I'll pass two parameter x and y, and after that function body, and I'll return the addition of x and y, x plus y. Okay, so this is how we can write the named function in JavaScript. And now I'll convert the same function into an anonymous function. So here what I'll do, I'll just remove the name of function and I'll put this function into one variable. So let addition equals to the same function. So here I'll hide this explorer as well as this terminal, and now you can see in JavaScript we can write named function like this and anonymous function like this. But now we are going to see the functions in TypeScript. So in TypeScript we need to provide the type of this parameter. So here I'll copy the same function and I'll paste it one more time. And this is TypeScript named function. So here I'll change the name to sum and here we will keep add. So here we need to pass the type of this x parameter, that is number, and the type of y parameter is also number. And after that we need to provide the return type of this add function. So it will return the value of type number. So that is why the return type of this add function is number. And now how we can call this named function? We can call this name function with name of the function, that is add. And here we need to pass two arguments, 2, 3, because in the function definition we are passing two parameters x and y. So now save the changes, and here I'll run this file with command node space functions. And you can see the output 5. 2 plus 3, 5. From the same function we can convert it into an anonymous function by removing the name of function and assign this function to another variable, like let addition of two numbers equals to the same function. And now while calling the anonymous function we need to call the variable like function expression. Now you can see in this case also we will get same output 5. So we have seen named function as well as anonymous function in TypeScript. So I'll remove these JavaScript functions and I'll keep TypeScript named function. Okay. So here again I'll convert it into the name function with function name add. Okay. So in this example, the add function accepts two parameter x and y with type number. And if no parameter type is defined, then TypeScript will default to use any. Therefore, it is important to add type annotations to a function as much as possible. Now, this colon and number after this parenthesis indicates the return type. So, in this case, add function returns a value of the number type. And when a function has a return type, the TypeScript compiler checks every return statement against the return type to ensure that the return value is compatible with it. And if the function doesn't return a value, you can use the void type as the return type. So when you call the add function, the TypeScript compiler will check each argument passed to the function to ensure that they are numbers. So in this example, we can pass only the numbers, not the values of other types. For example, if I pass this string values, this will result an error because it passes two strings instead of two numbers. Here you can see the error argument of type string is not assignable to parameter of type number. So we can't pass the argument of different type. Okay. So in short, we can write a function in TypeScript is similar to JavaScript but with added parameters and return type. And note that any JavaScript function is a perfectly valid TypeScript function. However, we can do better by adding type. Now, in JavaScript, all parameters are optional and default to undefined omitted. But in TypeScript, we can make a parameter optional by adding a question mark after its name. So what I'll do, I'll copy the same function and I'll paste it under optional parameter. Okay, and I'll comment out this named function. Okay, so by default, TypeScript will assume all parameters are required, but they can be explicitly marked as optional. So to make a function parameter optional, we use the question mark after the parameter name. Like if I want to make this y second parameter optional, then I can add a question mark after the parameter name. So now in this case, we can pass only one argument to the add function because we have made the second parameter as optional by adding question mark. So in TypeScript, the compiler checks every function call and issues an error if the number of arguments is different from the number of parameters specified in the function, or the types of arguments are not compatible with the types of function parameter. But in this example, we have made the second parameter as optional. That is why we are not getting any error. And one more thing about optional parameter is the optional parameters must appear after the required parameters in the parameter list. Now, next in TypeScript, we can set a default value for a parameter using the equal to operator. And this value is used if the user doesn't provide one or passes undefined. And this is called as default parameter. So let's see the example. So I'll copy same example and I'll paste it under default parameter. And I'll comment out the example of optional parameter. And here I'll remove the question mark. And instead of that, I'll add equal to symbol and I'll pass the value of this y parameter is 3. Okay. So the default value goes after the type annotation. Means the type of y variable is number. After that, we can add equal to operator and we can assign the value. And this parameter also come after all required parameters are treated as optional, and just like optional parameters, it can be omitted when calling their respective function. So in order to call this function, here also we can pass only one argument. So here I'll save the changes and you can see the output 5. 2 plus 3 equals to 5. And if you pass the second argument as well, like 5, then in this case, the second argument will override to this value. And now we will get output 5 plus 2, 7. So the use of this default parameter is if we are not passing the argument while calling the function, then it will consider the default value and return the result. And if you placed this parameter before the required parameter like this, then we have to pass undefined explicitly to use the default value. So here instead of 2, we need to pass undefined. Now next is rest parameters. Here required, optional and default parameters are focuses on single parameter. But what about multiple or unknown parameters? In this case, TypeScript offers rest parameters. So rest parameters can be typed like normal parameters. So here I'll write function followed by name of the function, calculate followed by parenthesis, and here I'll pass the rest parameter and it denotes with 3 dot with name nums with type array of number, and it will return a value of type number, and then function body. And inside body, I'll declare one more variable with name total equals to, I'll assign value 0. And after that, here I'll use for each loop dot for each variable num arrow symbol and then total plus equals to num. And now I'll return total. Okay. So this is how we can pass the rest parameter to the TypeScript function. So as I said, rest parameters can be typed like normal parameters, but the rest parameters follow some rules, like a function has only one rest parameter and the rest parameter appear last in the parameter list. Like if I want to pass any other parameter, then I have to pass it before rest parameter, like this. So the first rule is function has only one rest parameter, and the second rule is the rest parameter appear last in the parameter list, and the third rule is the type of rest parameter is an array. So these three rules we have to follow while using rest parameters. And in this example, this calculate method calculates the total of numbers passed into it. Since this nums parameter is a rest parameter, we can pass one or more numbers to calculate the total. Now I'll call this calculate method inside console.log with no argument. Now save the changes and let's see the output. Here you can see we are getting 0 output. And if I pass two argument 5, 10, then this time we will get output 5 plus 10, 15. And if I pass three argument 5, 10, 20, then this time we will expect the output 20 plus 10 plus 5, 35. You can see we are getting expected output 35. So it means with the help of rest parameter, we can pass as many arguments as we want. But this rest parameter example of single type, that is number, and if you want, TypeScript allows us to handle rest parameters with multiple types using union types. So for example, if you want to pass the argument of type number as well as string, then we have to use pipe symbol and you can add the type. So in this case, while calling the function, we can pass the argument of type number as well as string. Okay. So I'll delete this string and we'll keep this with number type only. Okay. So the benefits of rest parameter in TypeScript is it handle multiple or unknown parameters. It allows 0 to many optional parameters and it store arguments in one variable. Okay. Now let's move on to the next point, that is function overloading. In JavaScript, we cannot overload a function, but let's see how we can overload a function in TypeScript. Okay, so what is the definition of function overloading in TypeScript? I had split the definition of function overloading in these 3 points. First is multiple methods having same name. Second is different parameter types and return types. And third is number of parameters should be the same. So it means the definition of function overloading is multiple methods having a same name but different parameter types and return type. However, the number of parameters should be the same. So as per these 3 points, I'll create one function twice. Like function name is sum. So here also we are going to do the addition of two numbers followed by parenthesis, and here again I'll take two parameter a of type number comma b of type number, and it will return a value of type number and then function body. Now what I'll do, I'll copy the same function and I'll paste it here. Okay. But in the second function, I'll change the type number to string, and this function will return value of type string. Okay. So here in the definition, you can see multiple methods having same name, means here we have returned two methods having same name, sum and sum, and different parameter types and return type. So here we have provided the different type. This is of type number and this is of type string. And the third point is number of parameters should be the same. So here also we are passing two parameter and here also we are passing two parameter. So here we have written function as per the definition, but still we are getting an error because in order to overload the function in TypeScript, First, we need to provide the overloaded signature, and then we have to write the implementation of overloaded signature. So, before this function definition, first we have to write the overloaded signature. And how to write overloaded signature? An overloaded signature means we can create function without function body. That means I'll copy this function and I'll not provide the function body. Instead of that, I'll add semicolon. So similarly, I'll copy paste this line and the second signature is of type string. Okay. So now this is our first overloaded signature and this is our second overloaded signature. Now we have to write the implementation of this sum function. So here we have written two overloaded signature, but we need to implement this only once. So like here, we need the implementation only once. And here, instead of number, we have to provide the type of any, because this implementation is for type number as well as type string. So we can provide the parameter type as well as the return type as any. So this is called as overloaded signature and this is called as signature implementation. So now inside this function, we have to write a common logic for these two overloaded signatures. So here I'll return a plus b. Now you can see I'll call this sum function inside console.log. Here I'll call this function for first overloaded signature. So the first overloaded signature will return number. So here I'll pass two numbers 5, 10 and similarly I'll call the sum function one more time for second overloaded signature and second overloaded signature will return a value of type string. So here I'll pass two string. One is FAD and another string is learning. Now save the changes and rerun this file. You can see we are getting output 15 and FAD learning. 10 plus 5, 15 and FAD plus learning, FAD learning. And if in case I pass the value number and string, then you can see we are getting an error. Because we can pass the argument as per the overloaded signature. If you want to pass the argument of type number as well as string, then we have to write one more overloaded signature of type number and string and it will return of type any or both. We can add number, pipe symbol and string. Now save the changes and rerun this file. Here you can see 15 FAD learning and 5 learning. So I repeat, this is called as overloaded signature and we define multiple function signatures, each with a different set of parameters and a different return type. These signatures act as a public interface of the function. And this is called as signature implementation. We provide a single implementation for the function that handles all the defined overloaded signatures. This implementation must be compatible with all the overloaded signatures. Okay, so that is all about function overloading. So under TypeScript functions, we have covered type annotations. It means TypeScript allows us to specify the types of parameters and return values, improving code readability and maintainability. Next, we have seen default parameters. We can assign a default value to the parameter if it's not provided. Next parameter, we have seen optional parameters. We can define optional parameters by adding a question mark after the parameter name. And the third parameter, we have seen REST parameters. We can use REST parameters to represent an indefinite number of arguments as an array. And last, we have seen function overloading. TypeScript allows us to define multiple function signatures for a single function, enabling it to handle different combinations of parameter types. So, thank you for watching and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.